Super Mario 64 is one of my favorite games, and even though the DS already has a version of this game that is better than the original, I want to make the original game run on the original DS. But this is actually going to be a more difficult task than I initially thought. So let's get to work. Akito, what the f? So first I need to understand what we are working with and what already exists. And if I check all the ports of Mario 64 that already exist, there actually appears to be a port for the DS. So I guess I just make a video about this, like I did about some other projects, and that's gonna be fine. No wait, that one is actually DSi exclusive. That actually means that most of the sold DS consoles cannot play the original Mario 64 right now. And also normal flash cards cannot play DSi games, so it is much more complicated to play this game on DS hardware. Yeah, we need to change something about this. But why DSi exclusive? Well, it turns out the difference between the DSi and the DS is much bigger than I initially thought. The DSi has 4 times the amount of RAM. Yeah, the RAM is gonna be a problem on the original DS. Because after what I learned from putting Mario 64 on an Apple Watch and on a PDF, most versions of the recompilation of Mario 64 actually don't segment the RAM use. Because most modern machines have a little bit more than 4 megabytes, which the original N64 had. And you need around 8 megabytes to load everything into the RAM. So basically for recompilations it doesn't make so much sense to segment the RAM and load things on demand. Unless the RAM prices continue like right now, I guess then we have this discussion again. The point is, when somebody tried to put the game on the DS, they faced exactly this problem. The DS itself doesn't have enough RAM to just run a simple port of this game. I mean, other people have tried and not managed, so I guess I should just give up, right? Well, here's the thing. The Nintendo DS is such a powerful console, and I'm so done hearing about the limitations that this console has, because there is so much you can do with this device. And also the N64 made it work with the same amount of RAM. I refuse to believe that this doesn't work on the DS. So let me introduce you to NitroFS. It basically allows you to segment things up and load them into RAM on demand. So basically, I took the source code for Mario 64 on the DSi that was made by Hydreigon. You should go and support him. I have his link in the description for his YouTube channel and his GitHub. And I started to implement some code that actually makes this work. And this took a lot of time. A lot of crashes, a lot of debugging. And since I had to test this stuff mostly on real hardware to make sure it really works, I actually implemented a live debug console on the bottom screen, which is still active right now. Because sometimes this game still crashes and I want to figure out why. But after a lot of time and a lot of effort, I actually got the game to run. Okay, this is gonna be a special moment. Yeah, there's no way I'm not gonna use the anamorphic lens for this. The Goddard render is still missing because this is much more difficult on the DS than you think, but I will still do this later. So this version is already booting and the 3D renderer and engine is running. I had a lot of problems with random textures loading when I changed areas, but I fixed all of this and now it's possible to enter almost every level without the game crashing. I still have some crashes on some levels when I enter them, but I'm working on fixing that. And it feels very nice to play this game on a DS. And yes, since some people interpret original DS as meaning not DS Lite, here it is also running on an original DS. Yeah, I know it's broken and I should get a new one. It's embarrassing, but there you go, it works. At the moment, I'm still using the bottom screen code from Hydreigon, where we basically have an emulation of the N64 controls, which definitely helps. And I think I will keep this, but I'm also planning to implement a minimap on the bottom screen, and I might think about moving the controls a little bit to the left to make some room on the bottom screen. At the moment, I still have quite a lot of stuff to fix. The biggest bottleneck at the moment is still the sound. I'm not managing to fit the sound into the RAM right now, and the game is just always crashing with this, but I'm working on it and I think I will figure it out soon. I don't want to release an unfinished version, so I need to get this thing a little bit more polished before I can release the source code on GitHub so you can build it yourself, but I will do that in the future. And I haven't forgotten the other versions of Mario 64 I'm also making. So with the Apple Watch version I've got much further, and also with the PDF version I've made some updates, and these versions will also see a release on GitHub in the future. The difference between those other versions I made and the DS version is definitely the playability of it, because it feels nice and fun to play this game on an original DS. And since we already have a lot of cool mods for Mario 64, I'm considering to add modding support to this. So we can actually load the Mario 64 with new custom levels, and maybe it might even be possible to do the multiplayer of this game with multiple DS consoles. This would be super cool to implement with the full game playable in multiplayer. But yeah, this is basically my current state and where this project is heading in the future, and I'm very excited to hear all of your thoughts about this, because I've been working on this for quite a while and I haven't talked about it, and now I can finally show it, and yeah, it's been pretty crazy. And I mean, I'm also working on some other projects and you will also hear updates about those soon. I'm quite busy with all of this. Thank you so much for watching. And if you enjoyed this video, then you should definitely watch the video where I made Mario Maker on the Game Boy Advance.